It's my weekend, and so I have a few things that I've kind of been thinking about and we'll talk about for today's video. First of all, it is the launch day for the Surviving Mars relaunched city building game. So I will be starting a playthrough of that later on this evening, and we'll be looking at some Surviving Mars, and that'll be another one of those Let's Play series, which I'll be making, and we'll kind of make our way through that. I've also been thinking, though, about how I want to spend my time and kind of the whole issues surrounding social media and how sometimes there's toxicity on the internet. We've talked about these things. And when you combine that feeling that time is important and it's so easy to be distracted with the fact that people are really, really toxic in some online spaces, I just have felt more and more like I need to tighten this up, and I need to simplify my life so that I can have a sense of peace and have a sense of focus and not be constantly tempted to go scroll through something and then look back on it and realize that while I'm wasting time on scrolling through whatever it is on Reddit or something, I'm also not really getting a return on investment, because you post something and then people start to get toxic about it for one reason or another. And I like to use this city as an example. In Cities Skylines, this city, which I've been working on and playing around with, and I like to use it as an example of what I'm talking about, because I posted screenshots of this city build in the Cities Skylines Reddit, and at some point it created hostility. And the reason for this is because in the game I added that freeway, which I wanted to add and I thought it was cool. That's it. I added this freeway into the game. Like, it's not a big deal, right? It's a freeway I added into a city building game, but it made people offended because they view a car-centric city like Dallas or Houston or something as evil and as an enemy to more pedestrian-friendly spaces, bicycles, buses, etc., etc., right? So these self-proclaimed urbanists will say that what I'm doing by creating a freeway in a fictional city in a video game is somehow potentially offensive because it is not in keeping with respecting the spirit of building pedestrian-friendly cities. So this is beyond unimportant, right? So if you go into an online space and something as innocuous as how you play a video game can lead to people virtue signaling and treating you in a way that is disrespectful. Like, yeah, it's just Reddit. It's just people doing what people do. Nobody really cares. Well, that's true. It's not a big deal. But the question is, why am I going to waste my time on that type of platform when it's not edifying? And it's also consuming my mental energy, my time. It's something that I'm tempted to open the app and scroll through and read all of the Redditors rampaging at each other. And, then once in a while I post something and they'll rage at me. Now, like another example, I joined the pics subreddit. It's for photography. And my thought process when I joined that subreddit was, I'll post probably like maybe pictures of urban environments or nature pictures or just whatever photos I happen to have taken that I think are cool. I'll post it on there. It could be an interesting way to share things with others. But then I realized that what actually gets posted there is political stuff. And then everyone there is raging against the Trump administration. So it's like a bunch of liberal people who are fanatically raging against Donald Trump. Like, that's what is actually going on in that particular subreddit. It's not about photography like I had thought. It's just a space where a specific type of people have gathered. And, you know, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I have been critical of the Trump administration lately. I've also been critical of Democrats before, too. I don't intend to stop talking about these things. But the difference between a space like Reddit and a space like YouTube is, if somebody doesn't like what I have to say or they don't want to watch it, they can just go watch something else. It's really a space where you can choose what content you want to consume, and potentially there's value added there because you can curate what you're actually seeing in your feed. And that's not to say that there's not problems which arise from platforms like YouTube too. Like, everywhere on the internet, wherever there's people, there's going to be some of that toxicity happening. But by and large, I feel like there's a net positive when I look at YouTube, because there's many times when I've found a content creator that has something to say which to me is inspirational or meaningful or positive. But when I look at a space like Reddit, it's usually not that way. It's very much all about tribalism. It's about echo chambers. It's about people who start to try to do things that are going to give themselves more upvotes, and then anyone who has an opinion or something to say that's not conducive to generating upvotes in that community will either disappear or be eviscerated by people. And then it just creates a vicious cycle where the content that is available and approved is increasingly narrow bandwidth, increasingly tailored to a very narrow perspective. And people tend to be very hateful and very closed-minded in those spaces. And again, it just comes down to the question of, what do you want to spend your time immersing yourself in? And when I think about what I want to do in my life, you know, I do want to work on personal relationships. I do want to do things that have nothing to do with, you know, my computer and screen time. As far as my screen time goes, I like playing computer games. I like making the videos. I like doing things which feel like it's a value added sort of experience. And I do want to grow the channel because I think that it's something that can potentially be useful to some people. And so the more I've thought about this, the more I've realized what I want to do is to take a solid pause from Reddit and start making a point to share more of the things like photography, videos of places I've gone, video game stuff, like to share everything to the YouTube channel and try to kind of diversify that a little bit, so that the type of content I'm producing, it's going to be the, it's going to be the videos that I typically have always made, but it's also going to be more of the gameplay stuff, more screenshots of something that I'm doing, more of just all of the things that I would potentially maybe put into some other social platform. My goal is to kind of put all of that energy into YouTube and this channel, and let that be kind of my creative outlet. And then another thing that is kind of in the same ballpark, it's related, is the issue of where I get my news. And normally I'll read Google News, but I really kind of want to steer a little ways away from that. Partly because it seems like when you go to Google News, increasingly, the news headlines just aren't very satisfying, and they are often behind some kind of a paywall. Like you click the link, and then you get hit with a bunch of ads, or it's some newspaper that wants you to pay because you didn't, you've read too many articles this month, or whatever it is. And again, getting away from some of that scrolling behavior, Google News has become another one of those things where it's an app on the phone, and when I'm bored, I'll pull out my phone and scroll through Reddit or scroll through Google News, just looking to see like what's going on today. And in an effort to cut back on some of that scrolling and be more mindful, my goal is, again, I do like to get news off of YouTube as well, because most of the major news institutions have news broadcasts right here on YouTube, so I can watch some of those things. There's content creators in the space that cover news at various levels, which I enjoy. And I've also been a fan of The Economist magazine, which is a great business-focused newspaper that covers not just US news, but also global events. And when I get a paper copy of that, it's just really refreshing and mentally invigorating to sit down and read the actual news in a printed form versus that short form scrolling and clicking and then going back to scroll again and see things you've already seen, and all of that stuff. So I'm kind of trying to rework myself, just partly to get rid of some of the toxicity and some of the noise, and partly to use some of that freed up energy to pour back into YouTube, because I have a channel here and I do want to put out content consistently. And then just to try to, even if we're not talking about toxicity, to cut back on some of those things, which are continually a temptation to go back to scrolling and excessive screen time. Like I'm off today, right? And I like to go for walks. I like to be out in nature. I like to, do different things. But then I realized like the whole day can go by, and, it was on my bucket list. I wanted to play this new game that came out, right? And then 2 days go by and I haven't actually loaded it up yet. Like, why? Well, probably because, it's easy to scroll the phone and do some of those other things, and then not do something that's a hobby that I actually wanted to do. So that's something, that's been on my mind. But anyways, I thought there's a few other things to talk about here that have been on my mind today. One of those things is to trust your gut. And, by that I mean there's times in life where you think to yourself, this just doesn't really sit right with me, like it just seems a little bit sketchy. And an example of this would be on my LinkedIn profile. Some guy sends me an invite, and that's normal. Like, people will add you on LinkedIn. It's fine. I add people all the time, whether I know them or not. And if somebody posts something and I like it, I'll send them an ad request just to expand my network. And usually if somebody sends me an ad request, I'll accept it too, just because, I want to be willing to add people. I appreciate other people who I may not know in the business being willing to let me send them a request. But I get an ad, I accept it, and then I get a message from some guy, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Right? Well, I look, and this guy is like somewhere in Africa, and you know, then I'm like, okay. So I'm like, "Hey, life is good. How are you?" And his response is, "I'm not doing very good." So, you know, like, you know what I'm thinking right then? I'm thinking, okay, whoever this person is probably some sort of a scammer, because probably what he's going to do is he's going to say something along the lines of, "I want something." What that something is, I don't know. But the probability of some guy in Africa reaching out to let you know he's not doing very well is not going to lead to a wholesome relationship and friendship with somebody who has good intentions. It's probably someone who's going to have some kind of a Nigerian prince scheme, and it's going to be either a risky thing, or it's going to be a waste of my time, or it's going to be someone who uses me as a way to advance their network and add more people, and then potentially scam those individuals. So once I saw that, you know what? I don't even have anything more to say to the guy. I just unadded him, moved on with my day. And you know what? Maybe he is some guy with good intentions. Who knows? But my gut feeling is this guy is not worth my time, and this seems sketchy. And so, you know what? I'm done with it. And I think it's important in life to kind of listen to that inner voice, because sometimes you're going to have that feeling that something just doesn't seem exactly right. And if you don't listen to that, you know, you can regret it. So don't be afraid to, you know, listen to, you know, your own inner voice. And if something doesn't quite sit right with you, just accept it. Like, it probably isn't right. Like, that's just how it is. That's the reality of it. If it seems fishy, it probably is fishy. Another thing that I was thinking about is how, you know, when we talk about things like gaming, people will say, well, if you play games or you do creative things or you like art or whatever it is, like, that's stupid. You should grow up, put away childish things, and do things that are important. Do things that are grown-up stuff. You know, get your head out of the sand and apply yourself, you know, to be a serious person. And I think about how, like, people of all ages, all walks of life, they will focus on their toys, their stupid things, the stuff that doesn't matter at all. Like, for example, sports doesn't matter at all. Sports is just a game. It's no different than playing a video game. People sit there, they drink beer, they watch sports on the TV, and they rage about whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely a meaningless thing, other than it's something that they can connect with each other on. It can be maybe a community they're part of. It can be an activity they do for fun. And I'm not dissing on sports. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying anything of the sort. All I'm saying is it doesn't matter any more than me playing Skyrim matters. It's something you can do with your time if that's something you enjoy doing with your time. It's not something that is in any way meaningful or important. And yet, if you go into a room of you know, business professionals, you can probably start talking about sports, and they will light up and they'll start talking about it as if that's somehow business relevant, right? Like, that's the perception people have. Like, sports matters. It's something that we all have in common, that we have our favorite team or whatever. Doesn't, though, right? Or any number of other things people will talk about that they think these things are important. Everyone has something. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's the stock market, maybe it's crypto. I don't care what it is, but everybody has their little thing that they will get into. And if it's a mainstream kind of a thing, then people will use that as a flex. And they will say, well, I'm into this and it's important, and now I can, you know, have something to talk about with other people. But then they will also turn around and they will say, well, you know, whatever it is that you are into, whatever it is you think is cool, well, that's stupid, because that's, you know, that's just a video game, or that's just, you know, artwork, or that's just, you know, a kid's TV show you like. I don't know, whatever it is, right? But it's important for you to be true to those things that are kind of maybe childish, maybe they're creative, maybe they serve no particular purpose, but they speak to your imagination, they resonate with your soul. Don't let people take those things away in the name of something important, that important thing that you're supposed to be focusing on and doing with your life. It's not that important what other people are doing. What is important is what you're doing. And you should always be doing things which give you a genuine, true sense of happiness, of fulfillment. And, you know, it's just really sad when people give up a part of themselves in favor of trying to be serious about life. Because life, you know, we're going to live and then we're going to die. Like, it's not that serious of a thing. And there's a lot of people that are going to focus on serious stuff in life. But there's also a lot of value gained from people who have a whimsical approach to life. People who are not egotistical or power hungry or trying to follow societal norms. So just, you know, be true to yourself first, and if something feels good to you, then do it, and don't feel like you have to, you know, do what other people expect you to do. And that ties in well with the notion everyone is wrong. And you know, the truth is, like, I'm wrong about some things. I know I'm wrong about some things. What things, I really don't know. Like, I don't know what things in life I am wrong about. Like, if I knew that I was wrong about something, then I would obviously correct my position on it, right? So I don't know what I'm wrong about, but I know that I do have, you know, opinions which are not accurate. I have beliefs which are flawed. Like, that's just a reality of life. And the people who are the most wrong are usually people who have an attitude that they are right about everything. So, you know, we live in a world where people believe in all kinds of religions. They believe in all sorts of different things. Like, I think I have a guy in my building who believes that the earth is flat. Okay, so, like, people believe all kinds of stuff. So don't look at other people and say, well, because they believe something, and there's a lot of people who believe that thing, then I should believe it too. Or, you know, be down on yourself because your perspective on life is different, and people belittle you for having an opinion or a perspective that they don't share. It's very, very possible that a lot of people can be in a room and they can be all collectively wrong about something. But it's very difficult to look at a whole room of, say, hundreds of people and say, I'm right, and all of those people are wrong. Because we like to believe that as a society, we have the right conclusions as a broader whole. But sometimes mass deception is the norm. Just think about religious beliefs. And you can say, well, you know, maybe you're a Christian and you believe that that's the correct position to have. All right, well, that's fine. But you can go to the Middle East. No one's a Christian there. I mean, yeah, some people are, but most people are not. So if you go to the Middle East, you're going to be surrounded by people who believe in Islam, probably, right? And it's going to be unusual, weird for you to not believe in it. So the point I'm getting at is, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, you can go to a place where you'll find that no one believes in what you believe, and you are an extreme minority in the group. So it's important to believe in what seems right to you and not look around at other people and say, well, I should align my views to match what other people have to say. Because whatever echo chamber you are currently in, it's going to feel like a lot of pressure for you to align yourself with it. And you can also, if you're willing to be introspective, you can challenge yourself and say, well, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm off the rails because other people are criticizing me. Well, the reality is you aren't necessarily wrong. It's absolutely possible that many, many people can collectively believe something which is deeply flawed and incorrect. You know, I wanted to talk about the importance of walking away from things that are a net negative, about walking away from echo chambers, just because they can be more harmful than they are positive, even if they do have positive elements. And to that point, one of the reasons why it's hard to walk away from things is because we look around at things we've been part of, we look at experiences we have had, and we think, well, it wasn't all bad, right? Like good things have happened, you know, like I've spent time working with somebody maybe, or I've had a friend or something, and they were, you know, they were a good influence in my life. They did good things for me. But then what if they aren't doing good for you anymore? Then are you going to stay there forever? You know, like we want things to be permanent. We want things to, you know, not change. And so we have this feeling that we have to commit to something and then commit to it forever. But then sometimes the reality is someone or something, it can be good at a specific season and time in our life. But then eventually it stops doing good. It starts bearing bad fruit instead of good fruit. And then we have to come to terms with that. We have to say, okay, I'm really grateful for the good that this has done in my life. But I also understand that it's not doing good for me anymore. So I'm going to create some respectful distance now. And I'm going to let the past not define my future. And that's a hard thing to do. But sometimes it's important to do because things aren't black and white all the time. Sometimes something is bad in a specific way, but it's good in another way. And so you just have to understand that it's okay to be grateful for something and to think something is good, and also to have objections to it and not, you know, put blinders on or act like it's more perfect than it really is. Sometimes we think we have to put everything into a bucket, like this is either good or it's bad. And then we have a paradox. We struggle and we feel conflicted internally and all of that because, like, you can't figure it out. Like, is it good or is it bad? Well, it's both. Like, that's the actual answer. So that being said, I wanted to talk about how you can't save everyone. All right. And I was thinking about how it's easy to have your calendar filled up with things. It's hard to make time for everyone. It's hard to show care and concern for many, many people because you can quickly reach a point where you don't have unlimited time to talk to every single person in your contact list. You don't have time to be everywhere. You don't have time to give something to everyone who needs help. So don't feel bad about turning a blind eye to the opportunity to help others or to be there for others. Make a point to understand that you should want to make a net positive difference with your life. You should be trying to help other people, but don't feel like you need to be doing everything. You need to be involved in everything. Be comfortable letting some of that water run off and just say, you know what, I'm not going to be bothered with it because I have other things I want to do. And you don't have to give explanation for that. You don't have to give account for that. You don't have to feel guilty or ashamed because you just aren't going to be doing certain things. And yes, we should be willing to be connecting with other people. We shouldn't be avoidant of connection, but that does not mean that every single thing that is a good thing to do is something that we need to be doing, because otherwise your life will get so filled with things that you never really have time for yourself. You never really have time to be authentic because you're just on this continual treadmill of trying to find a way to, you know, be present for every single thing. And then that segues right into that notion that if everything is important, then nothing is important. So, like, if you have a family, then be there for your family. If you have a couple friends, then sure, be there for them. Like, but don't feel like you have to be there for every single person, that every single cause that you could spend time doing or volunteering for or whatever needs to be something that's a thing you put on your calendar, right? Don't get too attached. So less distraction leads to more time that you can spend for things that matter to you. And the way you can be less distracted is by being less attached. So, for example, like earlier I was talking about how Reddit is like something I've been looking at and thinking, you know what, I don't know if this is really a positive influence in my life right now. I don't know that I want to be on that platform anymore. Well, I could also look at that and say, well, I'm attached to it because there's certain things that are good about it. There's certain things I do like about it. And so I don't want to give it up. Well, the thing is, the more things you have this attachment to, you know, it could be a video game. I could be like, you know what, I'm an Elder Scrolls fan, and so I have to play Skyrim, and I got to do all the quests in ESO, and I got to do all this stuff. And then I think to myself, well, where am I going to find time to play like this other game that's coming out? Well, I can't do both, right? Well, that's where, you know what, sometimes I could do, I could say, you know what, I'm a fan of this game, but I don't have to play it, right? Because I already know I'm a fan of it. I like it. I got Elder Scrolls stuff sitting all over my apartment, but that doesn't mean I need to go load up the game and play it today. So I'm not super attached to it. That doesn't mean that I don't like it. But then when that new release comes out and I'm like, you know what, I want to spend a few hours playing this other game and I don't feel like playing Elder Scrolls today, well, it's all right because I'm not attached to that thing, right? And so it's just important to kind of free up your space in your life by not being overly attached to things. Because when you're attached, then you can't let it go. And then it becomes this enormous mental gymnastics thing, trying to figure out, like, what am I going to give up in my life? Or how am I going to have time to do everything? Like, you know, okay, like how many people, like if you're into MMOs, for example, or some other game where you have like a daily login kind of a thing, you wind up with several games and then you feel like I need to log into every single one and do my dailies. Well, then at that point, you don't even enjoy gaming anymore, because by the time you get done doing your dailies, now you kind of burn through a big part of the time you would normally spend for gaming, and you didn't actually even do any of the fun parts. All you did was do the daily grinding things, because you feel like in order to be, you know, a true fan of the franchise or something, you got to go do your dailies. Well, now you just kind of burned yourself out on everything, because it shouldn't be about the dailies. It should be about doing what is actually adding value into your life. And we shouldn't be overthinking these things. So don't get too attached. And then I was also thinking about how, you know, being really good at something is not the highest qualification out there in the world. you know, like I think about like what kind of women do I find myself attracted to? Well, I would say the ones that are cute and sweet are a whole heck of a lot more attractive than the ones that are like super beautiful and really, really like really, really smart or really, really good at something. Like if they're high powered or they're like very, you know, very good looking, like in that magazine cover model kind of a way. Like those, I don't really care about them, right? Like it just doesn't really appeal to me because, you know, if something looks too good to be true, it probably is. And if somebody is really full of themselves because they're like, you know, super beautiful or whatever, like they probably aren't really fun to be around, to be honest. So like, you know, like those are the kind of relationships I'd be looking for, right? Like somebody who is authentic and fun to be around and, you know, has, you know, that childlike wonder about life, like all those kinds of things. Those are what's more appealing and meaningful. And I was watching a video where somebody was talking about that. I think it was like a survey, like, and a lot of guys feel like this, like they'd rather have a woman in their life that's cute than one that is like extremely over the top, 10 out of 10 beautiful, right? Like the 10 out of 10 is probably also 10 out of 10 crazy, right? Anyways, but it's not just relationships though that applies to. It's that life should be lived with a sense of wonder. It should be lived with a certain degree of childlike, you know, love of simple things. And life should not be all about being serious all the time. It shouldn't be about being the best all the time. You know, the things that really matter the most in life, they're character stuff. It's, are you the person who engenders trust? Are you the person who builds confidence? Are you the person who makes people feel comfortable to be around you? Are you encouraging? Are you positive? Do you have a good attitude? Do you stay out of the gossip and the noise? Like those are the kinds of things which matter. Not, are you the best at everything? Are you the master of your own destiny? Are you, you know, a 10 out of 10 when, you know, we review your performance or your appearance or something? And finally, I just want to close with this idea of opting out. There's things we can opt out of all the time. We can opt out of relationships that don't serve us. We can opt out of activities that don't serve us. We can opt out of things that maybe are good, but they're not doing good in our life. And usually, when you think about how you can make your life better in our society, it's not so much about adding things. It's more about opting out from things. It's about finding a way to say, you know what, I'm going to cut out some of the noise. I'm going to get rid of some things. And, you know, if you think you don't want to give up something in your life, try it. Okay. Try taking a break. You know, I closed down my Facebook account quite some time ago now, just walked away from it. Because people like to snoop on you. They want to know what's going on in your life. They don't care what's going on in your life. They don't care about you. They're not going to be there for you. But they just want to kind of be there. They want to be on the list. They want to be able to get a little bit of juicy gossip here and there if it's convenient. And then you look at it and you get sucked into all of that. Well, I closed down my account. And the more time passed, the more I realized that was a positive experience. Not having that as part of my life. Not having that feeling of here's a whole bunch of people which hypothetically could be in my life. But in reality, they're not. In reality, they're just snooping on my life. But they're not really committed to being real friends. Not having them. That's excellent. Now, am I saying no one should have a Facebook account? No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is when you take a break from something, then just do a pulse check every so often to say, like, do I really miss that? Is there value that I'm missing in my life because that thing I took a break from is gone? And quite often what you will realize is you actually feel like it's a weight that has been removed. And if you're aware of that and you continue to kind of monitor how you feel about what you have in your life, if you aren't missing something, then you may be in a place where the best possible thing for you to do is just to say, you know what? I'm not saying that that thing is bad. I'm just saying I haven't needed it for a very long time. I took a break from it. I didn't miss it. So why not just go ahead and relegate that to the Goodwill donation pile of my life and say, you know what? I don't need to do that anymore. I mean, that could even be that game that you really loved. You played the heck out of it. And then one day you realized you really didn't look forward to playing it anymore. Because maybe you played it for a few hundred hours and you got the value out of it, and now you really just don't need to play it anymore. That's not betrayal. That's just how it is. It's just good to let go of things, because when you let go of things, that frees up a lot of space. Space that you can use for more meaningful, more relevant things in your life. And that is important when it comes to how we spend our time. It's also important when it comes to how we organize our lives. Do we need to have everything useful in our homes? Well, there's things that are useful, but they're not needed by us. And if you hang on to everything, then you wind up with the garage full of stuff, every closet full of stuff, every space filled with stuff, and you don't really need any of it, but you don't want to let go of anything. You know, somebody said something that really stood out to me once a while ago. They said, if you're single and you want a relationship, then why don't you start by emptying out half of your closet? Because if you were going to live your life with somebody, you'd have to have space for their clothes to fit in there, right? So how are they going to fit their clothes in there if you have your closet already full? So like, that's kind of like a way to think about life. You know, like if you want growth in your life, then you got to give up some of the things that are filling your life with a whole heck of a lot of noise. Because you can't add new things if your life is already filled to the brim and overflowing with old things. And that could be your video game library, it could be your closet in your real life home, it could be so many different things. But life needs to be something where we kind of minimalize, we kind of cut out some of the noise and really just say, you know, I'm not opposed to taking a break from things. I'm not opposed to letting go of things. I'm not opposed to opting out of things. And the fact that I'm opting out of something does not mean it has no value. It doesn't mean I don't like it. It doesn't mean that I'm pronouncing some sort of judgment against it. It's just, I don't need my life to be completely filled to the brim and overflowing with things that maybe were once useful, but they are not necessary anymore. Don't be afraid to opt out of things and to simplify your life. Now, if you miss it, bring it back. You know, it's kind of like those subscription services. You know, there's a lot of them, a dime a dozen, right? And you feel like you're betraying somebody if you cancel a service. But the truth is, if you miss it, you can always just resubscribe. You don't have to be constantly subscribed to every single streaming service in existence, right? Like, you can come and go. You can tailor your portfolio of things you have in your life to match what your current needs are, instead of feeling like you have to have, you know, like a shirt of every single color in existence. when the reality is maybe you just have a few that are your favorites and that's what you wear. Well, then why not just have your favorites and get rid of the rest? Like for a while, I had all these old shoes. I kept them around because like they were worn out, but they still could be worn. So I was like, oh, I don't know. One of these days, maybe I'll be doing some kind of work and I'll just want my old boots. So I'll just keep them. So there I have like a pile of old shoes in the closet. Like, I don't need that. So, you know, like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to opt out of things, because when you opt out, that gives you the opportunity to meaningfully commit to new things, which are going to be invigorating, exciting, and inspiring. So, oh, sorry. Well, anyways, I will leave it there. And as always, wherever you find yourself on your adventure, best of luck, and thanks so much for watching.